Okay everyone, let's recap what we have so far regarding the screens. So by Ctrl P we can enter play mode. Anytime. By pressing the escape key we enter the pause menu. And if we go to the saves option and press the E key to select that one, this is what we have out of the box from the ORK framework, as we have no design our screen menu. So let's do that now. Let's go to the window, ORK Framework editor, and so far we have created XIII GUI box. So what we need now is to build what will become the save screen. So if I open up the screenshot I took from the game, this is what we need. We need the top info about the slot, the save slot. We have the content box, and inside that content box we have the choices, the button choices, which is this list here. So let's do that. Okay, so let's close the editor for now and let's import a few images I made in Photoshop. Let me show you. So it's basically the top info, name box, the content box, and some placeholder for the locations that we will deal later on. So let's drag all these textures into our textures folder. And let's select all of them. And change the texture type to sprite 2D. Uncheck generate physics shapes. We don't want to generate any physics for these images. And that will be it. Title, username, top info, and save log content box. So let's do a little bit of housekeeping here. So probably create a new folder and call it log save screen, and place this save log content box and top info name box into that folder. Next, also we need to create another folder, and let's call it locations. Here inside the textures folder, okay, and let's drag the garden, title, username, and the placeholder into that folder. There we go. Alright, so let's go to Window, ORK Framework to open the editor, and the first GUI box that we are going to create is the top info GUI box. So let's put a name, top info GUI box. Let's keep the layer to UI. We don't want the cursor over. Remember that we are building this game trying to keep Xbox controller 100% compatible. Reset unity input, no, we uncheck that one. We leave the height adjustment, so we can close this one. Now for the content box, this one starts at 0 in the X and Y. The width will be 1920, which is the screen resolution we are working with, and the height 128. Upper left, we leave it as it is. We leave the padding, the line space, the show box, we leave it as it is. So we can probably just collapse the content box and focus on the name box now, which yeah, basically we can leave it as it is as well. So if we go to the open in GUI editor, we can see right now this is going to be our top info box, which sadly I cannot have a full view of the content because of the screen resolution we are working with now. So let's close the GUI editor. Okay, so we can continue by creating the next GUI box, which is going to be the save game GUI box. So let's name it save box. Same thing here, we don't want cursor over or preset unity input. Let's switch to the opening GUI editor. So this is what we have so far. So let's try to build or design our screen here. Okay. Expand the content box settings, and from here we are going to start the content at X0, Y 130. The width of the box will be 1920, and the height it will be 950, which is basically leaving space for the top info box. But in this case we are going to use the name box to display the information about the choices that we are selecting downstairs. So if you remember the screenshot that from the game, the choices are displayed in the middle. So that's why we want the content vertical alignment to set to middle. So it will be displayed in the middle of the content box. Then for the text format, we want to change, of course, our font. Keep using the square font. It doesn't let me, of course, so let's try to find it in the hierarchy. Okay. And let's increase the font size to 28. Then text alignment can be leave as it is, can be left as it is, and the alignment, let's put it on top. This is the text format. So now let's work with the name box. Expand the name box settings, and from here we want also to start from 00. And the width, in this case, it will be the whole screen zone. 1920. The height, it will be 130. We want to keep the anchor to the upper left. And it will be relative uncheck. So it is not relative to the content box. Now for the padding, for the text padding, we want to put 300 in the X, minus 40 in the Y, the Z, which is the right, to 0, and the bottom to 0. We want to show the box, and we want the vertical, the text for the vertical alignment to set to bottom, so we can see it right sample here. So we scroll down. We also want to change the font again to square. Okay, now it allows me to select it and also change the font size to 28 again. Okay, so let's put the line alignment to middle in this case as well, and we can close the name box settings and start with the choice settings. So it is already set to list, which is fine, but we don't want the list to be vertically. We want them to be horizontally, like in the screen. We have one choice, two choices, three choices, and a fourth one here. So to achieve that, we need to add columns in this case. So let's add 3 columns, and then we can choose column fill to horizontal. And then we have it. Choose 1, choose 2. Alright, so the next thing what we want to change or play with is the spacing. So the list setting spacing, so the space between 2 choice buttons. So in this case, we want to put a 62, and yeah, we can leave the Y to 10. The bottom padding, we can leave it as it is. We want to show the bottom, and now we can play with the content vertical alignment. In this case, we want the alignment to be in the middle. Info vertical alignment top is okay. Text alignment to left, and yeah, we can leave all as they are right now. So if we scroll down, we can again choose the font, square, change the font size to 28. On the console, let's leave it at 20. Yeah. So we can now scroll down to the title settings, which, as the documentation says, a title can be displayed alongside the choice button. What is basically meant to equipments, but in my case, playing with it, I got better results having this one at 50, and having both text vertical and title alignment to top. Okay, so from the choice selection, we want to loop the selections. That means that when we choose different options, we are going to select the choices, it will loop back to the first option. Now this is important. We want to specify a fixed height and a width as well. So let's think about it. We have an icon image, and also we have the information about the save slot in the bottom. So let's think that this is like let's say a rectangle. some sort of rectangle that we need to draw for the bottom. So let's do that. We want to define a width, and the width will be 385. We can leave the offset to 0, and also we want to define a height, which is going to be 470. There we go. And that will be it for the content box. And this is everything we need to do for the choice settings. Now we need some sort of padding in the middle of the content box to try to mimic what we have here. Of course, this is too much space for my taste. So let's go back to the content box, and we have here in the padding section, we can add 200 for the X. For the Y, I will add 16. For the right side, 200, and for the bottom, let's add 400. So that will push our content box a little bit up in order to get the image displayed properly. So let's scroll down all the way down, and of course we want our icon, the hand icon. Sorry, not here, in the choice icon. Yeah. So let's select T hand pointer. Change the reference to resources, and we can leave the middle center, middle left as it is, but let's change the icon offset to 10 in the X and 0 in the Y. Sorry, minus 10 in the Y, and the fade position, we can put a minus 10 in the X. We can leave the Y at 0 and the time to fade to 0.4. The next step is to build or to add our own skins prefabs for the content box and the name box using the images we imported at the start. So let's do that now. Close the GUI editor. Save your changes and close the editor, ORK editor. So let's open the scene that we were using to build the UI stuff. Okay, so expand the canvas, and let's just hide these items. Select the canvas and right click to create a new let's say panel, and call it P uppercase top info name box. So in this case we want the anchor presets to be top stretch. Okay. At this point we can just remove the image component. And from here we can also change the height to 131. Then we can add a new image to it. And we want to set the source image to the textures that we imported before. So in the load save screen folder, we have this T top info name box. So drag it to the slot on the inspector and set the native size. This is what we have. Okay. Remember to uncheck the raycast target. In this case, yes, we can also uncheck maskable. And that will be it for this prefab. So we can now go to our prefabs folder, UI folder, and drag the game object to create a prefab out of it. That's going to be our top info name box. We now want to do the same for the content box. But before that, since I'm looking at the screen now, I don't want the background to be transparent. So let's add the image back, the image component. This one. Uncheck raycast target, maskable, and let's change the color to black. Much better. So let's create now the second GUI box prefab. So let's add another panel component. Let's call it P. Save load content box. Let's do the same thing. We can remove the sprite itself, but let's change the color to black. One at the alpha. Uncheck raycast and maskable. But in this case, we don't want to take the whole screen. So in this case, let's change the alignment to be in the bottom and stretch to the full width of the screen. So Shift Alt and choose bottom stretch and change the height to 950. 950. There we go. So now we can continue by adding a child image into this game object. Change the alignment as well to stretch in all directions, and then we can assign our image to the source image slot. So let's go back to the load save screen and drag our image there. Remember to uncheck raycast target and maskable. And that will be it. Now we can create a prefab out of it. So let's go to our UI folder and drag it. We can save the scene and switch back to the ORK scene again. Now open the ORK editor, and in our Save Game GUI box we can scroll down to the Home UI skins, and let's assign our prefabs there. So let me just move the window a little bit to the side, and let's find the prefabs. So we have, for the content, we have the Save Low content box, and for the name box we have the Top Info name box. Remember to change the asset reference to resources, and let's save our changes. Let me close the ORK editor and see what it looks like. Okay, pressing Escape key E key to select and nothing happens. So let's see what we need to set. This is because if we go back to the screen that we made earlier in the menu screens, pause the screen, and we scroll down onto the button list, we have the type save, what it says. The save calls the save menu defined in the save game settings. So we need to go there. So we have the same game settings now. We have 3 slots so far. We cannot add more than 3 because unfortunately ORK Framework doesn't handle the scroll bar with horizontal list, only vertical. So we would not be able to see the 4th, or it will be cut in half, and there is no way to overcome this issue. Probably later versions, but not in this one. Okay, so let's go for each settings. So we have 3 game slots, one for autosave. We can leave a single, and save to file persistent data path is okay. I will show you what is this route later on. We can leave the screen fade out and fade in as they are. The save settings is where you select which options or which things from the game you want to save. So let's leave it as they are right for now, as default. This is the part we are interested in. So we have the file settings, and this one is the information that we want to display in the screen. Right now it's set to file number or percent, and this is the file number. It will be parsed to a file number at the end. So we want to change these settings here. For that, let's click in the edit text and remove the file and add %A, which is the area name. Then we can add the time played, and we add the text code for that, which is the %T. And finally we can add save game, and the number, text code. Click OK. Next, when we are presented with empty slot, this is the information that we are going to see in the screen. So I want to change that one as well. So let's click on edit text. In this case, we want to show the area icon or the location where we are. Remember the screenshot? So if we are saving from the ARC, we want to display this icon. If we are saving from, let's say, Luxerion or the title screen, this is what we see. So let's try to mimic that behavior. For that one, we want to remove the empty text. Click on the More button. Then from here, we want to select data. Then in the data drop down, we want to select area and current. And instead of the name, we want to select the icon of that area. You can leave the original size as it is and just click add. So we have this text code that will be replaced with the icon that we imported later. The next text we want to add is new save data and add the file number. Click OK. Let's save what we have so far before Unity crashes. And let's scroll down until we see the autosave settings. We can leave it as they are. So we have the save game menu. This is what the screen before in the menu screen the description meant. So this is where we need to set our GUI box to save GUI box, save game GUI box. Okay. By selecting the show title, this is the information that will be displayed in the name box. So let's type here some auto save for now. And in the save text, we want to display the save text like so. So in order to match the image that we are using as a background, I added like 34 spaces here, 34. So let's start counting. More or less. And save. Click OK. Save your changes. Alright. Let's see how it looks with these changes. Yeah, but the autosave is displaying transparent, and know why that is. It is because in our prefab the image alpha is still on 0. So let's try to fix that out. And well, if I just choose the option, you see that I am looping through them. And this is what I meant. So this is a previous game save I already had for testing from my other project as well, actually, but it's searching at the same path at the end, so that's why we see it here. So let's stop the player and go to the name box, info name box, open prefab. So in the top, oh, we are actually missing the image here, so set the image again, set it to black. That should do it. Save prefab and let's give it a quick run. Yeah, much better. And there we have our text. Okay. If you remember, we set in this file save information to store the current icon of the area or the icon of the area that we currently are. So let's review that. File settings, yeah, area icon current. So in this map, in this level, we don't have any area yet. So let's go to the world, area types, we have arc, but for the arc we have this one, the arc. Actually this is not accurate according to the game, should be called the garden. So let's change that name and save the settings. And thinking about the icon, I would like to, for example, to use the icon in the area type, but later on I'm going to use that icon
to actually filter the location for the areas for the quests, to get the list of quests on each location, and we need that icon here. So to work around that, we cannot use the icon in this place, we are left to having to use the same icon all over again, all the areas for a specific location. And well, let's do that. So for the garden we need, let me try to put this aside. If we go to the locations, we have this, the garden icon. So let's just put it here. Remember to change to resources. Also we have actually we have created this for usename, which is the prologue scene. So we need to create that one here. So let's add it, add new area, and call it palace. The area type is going to be usename, and let's drag this icon here, change to resources. There is one more area that we need, which is going to be like a dummy area, but it's the title screen. So let's add it again, add one more. So title menu, and this is this one. So let's drag it, resources, and we need to assign it to an area type, of course. So let's add one more here. Let's call it title menu, and save everything. So if we go to the areas again, we have the garden, which is in the ARK, we have palace, and we have the title menu. And let's see how it goes now. If we play again the game, we should see the icons for the current area we are in. But no. That's because we still need to add the area in the map. So click on the ORK Scene Wizard, create object, area. Well, by default is selecting the first one, which is okay for us. We can leave as show notification, auto name object as it is, start by collider, start by trigger. We can leave all this as it is, but what we need to change actually is the size. So let's change to top-down view. Select the area object, then in the sphere collider, and let's increase its size a lot. Let's move to the side and now change the position of the game object. And again the size of the collider. Yeah, something like that. Save the scene and play again. So if we press save, and there we go, we have the icons for our current area. But again, this is the old save I got, but it's trying to, it should show the area that that game was saved on, which is the garden. So how to fix that? Let's try to investigate how ORK build this menu. So if we scroll to the Don't Destroy Unload scene and then ORK Canvas, we have our layer UI, and then we have our screens here. We have the Save Game GUI box. Then we have our prefab that we made already. Then the content, and there we have our 3 choices. So it's creating a button component or a button game object for each choice, and from here is building or putting the text on it. I already tested trying to display any sort of image, like using the area image or just a fixed icon, but it's not working. So the way I ended up doing this is by code. So searching for this object and injecting or creating an image at runtime. And this is how we are going to do it now. So let's stop playing the scene. And for that we are going to need a custom button prefab for the choices. So let's switch to our scene for UI stuff. Yeah. Let's open the canvas and create a new UI button. Let's rename this prefab as P load save choice button, so we know what's the purpose of this choice or this prefab. Then we need to change probably the size to match the size we define in the choice section, if you remember. Of course, we don't want raycast target nor maskable. We can remove the UI sprite, but it's important here we set the alpha to 0. And that should be it for now. So let's save this as a prefab and open ORK editor to assign it. So go to the menus, save game menu, and scroll down until the save game menu settings, and then we have the file button custom, set to use custom, and assign your prefab here. Remember to change to resources, and again do the same for the empty button custom skin and change it to resources and save your settings. In that way we can use this prefab as a script in order to find or build this image at runtime. Okay, so to create a script, let's scroll down into our scripts folder, UI folder, and let's create a new script. Let's name it UI save load choice icon fixer. And let's assign it to our prefab. What happened here? It's compiling, still compiling. Okay, let's wait for it. Okay, all right, and save the changes to the prefab. Open up the script in Visual Studio. And let's fix the formatting. And I will be copying the existing code I already wrote, just to speed up a little bit the video. So first of all, we need a couple of using statements for the UI and for ORK Framework. Then I want to have a constant string, just to avoid having to write or type the same string all over again and avoid mistakes. Then we have a private variable which hold this string new save, and you will see why. Then we want this script to be executed in the start method event. As always, when dealing with ORK Framework, we need to make sure that ORK Framework is initialized, otherwise we just return and don't do anything below this line. After that, if you remember how ORK builds the choice button, we need to iterate through all the components that are children of this button object. This one. So ORK will create the first choice element as the button. This is the prefab that we'll be using. So the script is in this first prefab, and we need to check or search for all the text. And actually I can see now that I forgot to delete. I always forget to delete this text component. We don't need it. Save prefab. Yeah, it's already to save. So ORK will build the text as child of this prefab. That's why we added the script there. And let me now the iteration. So what I'm doing here is for each text that are children of this component, the game object, I'm going to check if the text starts with the new save word. Then we can continue to the next text. We don't want to process that one, and I will show you why later on. But then, as you remember, we configure in the file info settings, to have the area name as the first line. That's why we are doing this hack here. So just checking the first iteration and extracting the name or the text that are in this section, in this first line, as the location name. And afterwards, for each text, we need, since we are going to build the image at runtime, we need to push the text below that image. That's why what I'm doing here changes the local position of each of this text below the image, having an offset of 34 pixels in between each text. Okay. And lastly, after having all the text, what we need to do is actually, well, build the image. So again, double checking that for any case, if the location name for whatever reason still starts with new save, this is the text that we added in the ORK editor, then we don't do this. We don't create the image, because we saw that if we are in the current scene, it's actually working. the only place where it's not working is when you load a saved slot, already saved slot. So we create a game object, we put it the name image, we set the parent to this, the transform of this game object, and set it as first sibling. It will move it in the list of child components to the first place, so it will be in the background of all the list of the other components. And afterwards we add that image component to the game object, and we then configure the position and the scale of this image component accordingly to the size of the image and the location. And finally we set the image source, which is the sprite, to this path, resources, texture, locations. So this path is very important, and then we pass the location name, which is actually the area that we are passing in this text here. So let's save this script and let's give it a try. Okay, so let's switch to the ARC again, save. And hit play. Escape E, and there we go. We have the icon that was saved using the area name, the garden, and these icons are the ones for the current area we are in now. It's a pretty shame that there is no possibility to do the scroll horizontally to have more slots. Maybe something that we can request to GUI. Okay, so how to see if this is working also in other scenes? Let's do that. So let's go to the prologue scene. And then here we need to add an area, as we did in the ARC. So let's choose the combatant spawner as a reference, and ORK Scene Wizard, create object, area. There is our area, and we can now select from the area the name Palace. Is that the name that we added to the texture? Let me double check. No, Yusnan. So we need to change that actually. But let's fix the size. It's not mandatory because we are actually spawning the character, the player in the area that this area component is. But let's just make it a little bit bigger. Okay, something like that. To cover both floors. Alright, so let's go to the editor and fix this name to match the image. Otherwise it won't work. For the save slot, if we want to save from here. So game, world, areas, palace, let's call it use none, double N. Save settings. Okay, and let's give it a try. So what we should expect to see here is the first lot still showing the icon from the ARK, the garden, which is the previous saved game we had, and then the icon for the current area should be the use none. So let's hit Ctrl P to enter play mode. Escape key, E to select, and it's not working, the current icon. So this is working, this is not working. So let's see what we broke. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Probably the area. We are not in the area, actually. Yeah, we should be in the area. So let's check in the editor. Maybe we use none. Okay. This is our image made at runtime, but we don't have the current location, so let's see what's going on here. I think the problem is the size of the collider, the component, so let's just increase it a little bit. 1, 6, 6, 6. Save, and let's try it again. Yeah, that was it. So we have the palace icons. I'm going to wrap this video here, and in the next one we are going to be playing with our custom main menu. I don't know if you remember that we are using a custom main menu, so we need to actually call the load screen from that custom menu. But we're going to leave it for the next video. Thank you all. Bye.